Week 9.
9.
We are back for some more nausy, rugby, chat.
Oh, it's going to be plentiful this evening, Speed.
What a guest. What a guest.
Huge guest. The people have spoken. We have listened.
Delivered.
We are literally keeping people up at this late hour of the evening. Speed, how's your week been, mate?
I guess so big, we couldn't make it a surprise. It would have shocked too many people.
Like, not big in size, but big in stature, maybe.
Yeah, reputation.
Aye, Captain. So, Speed, how's your week been, mate?
Yeah, same as always, mate. I must lead a really boring life because whenever you ask, I don't really have a lot to say. Just been working. Got back into training, which has been good. We'll get onto that in a bit. Life's still a bit crazy in the general world. Some sad things have happened, but we'll touch on that a bit later. Some stuff that's affected the rugby community. But no, other than that, man, I'm good. I'm blessed. I'm growing the tash out, so I've got a nice and strong game for November.
Good, man.
Good.
Will you keep that for November? You're not going to start again?
No. I'm giving myself a head start.
Yeah, see, I did the same. I just shaved off everything else from November last year, and I thought it was, I was quite proud of it. But, some people call you a fraud, so you just got to deal with it. Deal with it.
Not in this house. How's your week, mate?
Mate, my week's been all right. Back into school, enjoying it. Lots of hand washing, and that's just me. Quite sad. My bike got nicked on Sunday, but we move. So
adapt.
Yeah, adapt and overcome. So what can I do?
Good to hear, man. Well, not about the bike, but the fact that you're overcoming.
Right, Mister. Shall we get El Guestio on?
I mean, I'm hoping the software doesn't crash because of how big a guest this is.
Yeah.
Star quality.
Oh.
Where is he? Wherefore art thou?
Hear ye. El Guest, can you hear Doth?
Doth. Hello there. I can feel his presence.
Oh,
there he is.
El Squire.
Here we are. Technical issues.
Hey.
Not there in the end, fellas. How long is that? So a 10 o'clock start, 22:17. Good going.
Yeah, this is good.
Before
we get into it, name, position, where do you like to drop in Verdansk? Let's get into it.
Wow. Name is Paul Anthony Broadhurst. Position on the field is 9, 10, 13, 15, usually 15, maybe 13 with the absence of the great Jordan Suter this year. Favourite drop, Boneyard, what a place. But sometimes I like to go to Port. Just like to change it up depending on where the zone is. But hey, that's the other podcast we've got in the works, Speedy. Let's not get too into that.
You're adaptable, I get it.
Yeah, you know me. I'll just say thank you for bringing me on. It's an honour. It's something that I've been waiting for 9 episodes now, is it? 8 episodes. I had listened to the car crash that was Mary's one and thought it couldn't go much worse. So here I am to take the reins.
Huge boots to fill. Literally size 13. Yeah. I mean, he got size 14 sliders. So really are huge. Small canoes, some might say.
The man's a freak. Wow. So, yeah, here we are, Paul. Episode 9.
Wow.
You've told us a little bit about yourself. But before we really dig into the deep-rooted passion you have for this club, we had some training tonight. How did we find it?
I actually found that one of the hardest bits of exercise I've probably ever done. Trying to keep up with Peter Brooks is just, it's quite something. The first 4 weeks after lockdown, when I was running every day, I had Pete on toast, easy stuff. But now the bloke his engine is, oh my God.
Mate, that boy is a greyhound, and to think he's just had a week on holiday as well, senseless.
Yeah, and you add that to the fact he's probably got the best lid in the club after his excursions to Turkey.
Oh, you know what I love? As everyone else's lid is slowly deteriorating, his is just going the total opposite way.
Oh, mate, money well spent. Money well spent.
Yeah.
How did you guys find it?
So, what are we on? Week 5 of pre-season?
Yeah, mate, halfway of the 10-week block for the season that now isn't starting, but we'll get onto that, I'm sure.
Oh, of course. So you spoke about, halfway through pre-season, a big landmark of 1K testing tonight. You stated potentially one of the hardest sessions ever.
Yeah, trying to keep up with Pete. Got there 1 second behind him. Thought I had him, but the bloke he's got to turn the pace. He's even quicker than Scott McCauley, which is quite something. So, you do your best to keep up to the greats, but aim for the stars and you might land on the moon. Am I right?
Hallelujah.
Oh.
Hallelujah.
Oh, plenty more.
Would you like to share your 1K time?
Speedy, if I must. 3 minutes 19, Dave.
Wow.
Pete Brooks for 3 minutes 18.
What
about you two? Would you like to share, or we're not going that far?
I'm happy to.
I'll share mine on week 10, please.
Please.
Come on, it's about progress, of which you made some.
Exactly. Don't be shy.
What? I don't want to say the wrong time. I think I was 4:36.
Which is an improvement of.
Coming back very rotund after holiday. I think it was 4:52.
Wow.
I was up there with the heavy. So yeah, percentage-wise,
that's very, very, very impressive.
Yeah. So need to knock it down to 4:20, bro. 4:20, bro. But yeah, we move. So yeah, pre-season going really well. I'm actually really enjoying the running.
Yeah, the Ready for Rugby is good as well, I think.
Yeah.
That we've finally got that into us. That the first 3 weeks where we were in groups of 6 and you had to wash your hands and all you could do was run. That was pretty miserable, but
just boring as well. Yeah. Just boring.
Yeah, here we are, ready for rugby. Got the academy boys coming through. Little Seji, what a player. Carlos,
Carlos.
Josh Carroll, absolute wheels. The fastest man in the club scene since Neil Page. I'm going to throw that out there early.
That is a claim.
I'm going to throw it out there.
That is a claim.
If you can come back to me with someone faster, I'm happy to talk to you, but I don't think you can.
I will try ahead of next week. I've got a few in the back of my mind, but
you don't, because there isn't anyone faster.
Well,
possible. Keep that on the agenda next week.
Oh hell yeah!
And obviously Saturday as well. Got down, did a little bit of chook, famous chook. For those of you, anyone care to explain what chook is? That game we all have grown to love over the last couple of years.
You go right ahead, Paul.
Wow. I believe chook ball is a Swedish game. I think. I think Sia said it was made in the 1970s, but that could be a bit salt. It's like a cross between handball, netball, and UFC when we play it. It's intense. There's 2 nets with bouncy nets. The ball's like a handball size. You can run with the ball, but you can't get touched. You can throw it any direction. You can ping it off to score. You have to ping it off the net. It has to bounce out past this semicircle, and someone on your team has to catch it clean. Simple, right? No. It is challenging.
Sounds like something from the ancient Roman times.
Yeah, some say Sia developed it himself, but we'll never know.
But that as you said, that gets violent, which is just, what we all live for, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Speedy, Foggy, you wouldn't know this, but Speedy, if you're playing there and let's say it's me, or you're throwing and I'm there ready to catch it, and you you feel that rumbling in the background, and you know it's either Foggy or Mary coming for that last-minute interception.
Yeah.
I think when those boys hit you from behind, you're in trouble because there's not a lot of stopping that man.
No.
Either of them.
Hella weight is just going pile driving through the back.
And the pace you move at now, 4 minutes 36, is you don't want to get behind that.
Talk about velocity.
Shout me week 10. Chook on Saturday, but also, a bit of footy. There were some obviously fantastic footballers, and there were some obviously terrible. I'd like to include myself in the latter.
And there was probably a lot of guys that would have made semi-pro if it wasn't for a prior knee injury. Am I right?
Oh, definitely. A few knee supports. We'd love to see. So maybe we could highlight some people that maybe impressed us, and some people that we were just thought absolutely terrible.
I think if you go for impressive, the first name on everyone's lips, the talk of the town, is Sonny Backstein. My God, he's so good.
KDB, he was quality.
If Kevin De Bruyne had shrunk and put on about 30 kilos and the rest, this is Sonny. Like, first touch, a little kind of drop the shoulder, past Terry Copley. The goal Jamie Vardy scored, that little flick with his right, outside foot. No joke, Sonny Backstein scored that exact goal. So who did it first? Where did Vardy get his thoughts from? He was incredible. And I'd like to put this out there. The worst player on that pitch, without a doubt, was you, Foggy. You were easily. If Humpty was on the pitch, I'd probably say him, but he wasn't. So
Fair.
Like a newborn overweight giraffe.
Fair.
I think for a 42-year-old labourer, George Tosso ain't got a bad engine.
Oh, mate, he was quality.
Also, first cross was pinpoint on the money. Tom Buckle, he doesn't miss
it. Was like Trent, like you said, that first cross was sublime.
Yeah, doesn't run up and down his wing much, though, does he?
No,
hasn't got the work rate. The bar and goal, one of the worst players. Actually, the bar was probably worse than you. Yeah, all he did, instead of, he's a bit like Bernd Leno, doesn't dominate the box. Instead, he kind of let it come to him, and he threw a left-handed haymaker, missed every single one.
Yeah,
just catch it. But
I thought Copley did a job at the back, to be fair.
Yeah, him and James Hamilton, what a partnership.
Wow.
Copley was like classic Jamie Carragher back in the day, just absolutely hoofing the ball in the air with every opportunity.
Mate, those two blokes, your name's not down, you're not coming in. Simple.
James Hamilton was like Yap Stam, just there was nothing getting past him. Studs up. Oh, incredible player. Incredible.
Fantastic.
Rollerball, though.
Calls for return of rollerball. I mean, we did discuss this. It's just such a wintry sport, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, when it's wet and you can slide. I think the two people you want on on your team when you're playing that are Kempster and Tom Otwell. They're like cats. They just get to the floor, get the ball, and they pounce up. They are. Kempster is an amazing athlete. He is so good.
I've never heard Tom Otwell described as a cat, and now I'm like, I can't see him as any different.
Was there a Chelsea keeper called the Cat? Was it Peter Bonetti? Is he the Cat?
No, I'd say Kempster. He was in goal, actually. He was more of a Chris Kirkland.
Yeah, mate. Kempster was in all
very, very solid.
Command in the box as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely flying that ball.
I mean, half of pro football is just confidence.
Yeah. Kempster's got it in abundance.
He's got it in abundance, I'll tell you that.
Why wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. What a man.
So, Senor Broadhurst, we are now going to grill you.
Wow.
Not in the way you prefer.
No.
So, yeah, mister, over to you. I mean, obviously, for those far and wide who haven't heard the famous Broadhurst name, just give us a little bit about yourself, your own journey, and just everything along the way, please.
My Beck's career journey, right? Not my spiritual journey, just my career.
I mean, they go hand in hand.
They do. Well, as you know, you've mentioned the surname twice, and just in two rooms over there, Bob and Ange, as I call them, mother and father, mum and dad, Robbie and Angela, as you might know them. I am fortunately enough to be the son of those two. Carries with it great responsibility. So I've been at the club. This is very cliche, but I've actually been there pretty much all my life. You might have heard Bob say. So I was born on a Wednesday, and he is convinced that I was at the club that Saturday. So Wednesday, Thursday, that's 3 days old. He claims this could be a bit of salt, bit of bit of fake news, but he claims that he had a game, he went down, Ange came with him, put me on the bar, she went off, had a G&T, and someone like Tracy Buckle or Andrea or Julie or Ali Hughes, someone like that looked after me.
Mickey Kelly.
Yeah, maybe. No, he would have been playing actually.
Yeah.
I think he was genuinely playing. So that's the rumor. That's the story doing the rounds at the moment, and I'm gonna go with it. So when I was 3 days old,
you had a sour San Miguel in your hand at the time as well. So,
mate, also don't let facts get in the way of a good story.
Oh, they absolutely won't be. Not on this podcast.
No one cares about the truth.
So I was fortunate enough for my first experience of the den of Beccehamians to be at the ripe old age of 3 days old, and been there ever since, fellas, as you well know. So between the age of 3 days and 5 years, I was pretty much down there every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, with Josh Hewitt, people like Alex Brooks, Jamie Hughes, Cal Murray, Josh Keat, some of the stalwarts of our club, just playing like hide and seek, red arse, wall ball. There used to be a little cupboard in the changing rooms with all the tackle shields and like the tackle sausages and that. We'd play like Royal Rumble in there, tear around the pitch and putt. You name it, we did it for 5 years straight.
I bet you lot used to rinse that pause. Remember that little machine that you could get sweets or Pringles?
Yeah. Well, we didn't have that, but what we did have, I don't know if you two have experienced it. We had used to have giant Jenga. That was class. So like obviously the seniors used it as like drinking games, but alas, we weren't allowed. So we just played like normal Jenga. They also had a table football there for about 6 months until it like completely broke. Because the older boys, like, when you play it, you're not allowed to spin. They would just be standing there spinning it, and I think one of the heads just flew off, and that was it. So we've never
not the first head to fall off at that club.
Oh, we've witnessed many. So that was the age of 3 days back up until when we were 6. We played a bit of touch rugby on the side whilst we were watching, but because obviously we didn't have micros back then, so I was just running around throwing a rugby ball, but not really any structure to it. And then I think it was 2000 actually, because we were the Millennium Squad, weren't we, Fog? I was under sevens, and that's when it all started rugby wise. So Bob was the coach, him and Paul Hewitt. Shout out to Paul Hewitt. He's done it all. He's done it twice now actually. He is a man who deserves the recognition. So
Ken P was giving Paul Hewitt a huge shout out last week. Because obviously he'd done his whole rounds with Josh and obviously our age group, and then only to be pulled back in under.
Mate, incredible. So back in the under sevens, I was looking at some pictures earlier. It was like me and Josh Hewitt were the only two who really knew what we were doing, and then we had like Adam Paul, that little. You might remember some of these folks. This little Welsh guy called Reese. Toby Robinson, Sam O'Donnell. Mark Anderson, I think.
Mark, he used to work down. Didn't he work down the club a few years ago? He had a surname, Mark something. I know
but he was the only guy I know to get red carded in minis. He had a screw loose, mate.
What did he do?
He just he would headbutt kid, he would lose his head all the time, and he's like you when you were, like 17, 18, kind of head loss quite a lot. Think of that, but as like a 6-year-old kid every weekend. So he was quite
no right to be that angry.
So all of them lot, and then obviously under 7s and 8s is just like you're just running around, ain't you? No one really knows what you're doing. I remember that Angus bloke, Fog. I think he was there for one season when you were. The sort of year where I always remember my dad losing his head about this. We were at one of I think it was like Worthing Festival in under 8s, and I think it's 7-a-side, isn't it? And they scored the easiest try ever, like just walked it in, and my dad was losing his head, and I'm like, he doesn't usually get angry at that because just mini rugby. And I looked in the middle, and that Angus guy was like sitting on the floor with some other bloke on their team, and they were like, they had the same boots on. So they were like swapping boots and playing with worms, and the head loss from the commander was literally
it is flowing back, rolling back the years. Thanks.
So good. So I don't think he ever really came back up to. I don't think he came
also,
back.
You know, yeah, minis rugby. What?
So yeah, mate, that was so good. So we did that, and then you joined. I think under nines were where some of the real stalwarts joined. So you, Gilgan, Mertz. I think Brophy did. Jack Robertson.
Yeah.
But if we're being honest, up until under 12s, we were absolutely terrible. Like we won maybe 1 in 5 games.
Yeah.
We got hammered most of them, but still enjoyed it. We always had good fun, so we kept the same team. And then I think it was under 12s, wasn't it? At that, it was at a Kent festival at Hop in Tunbridge.
Yeah, Tunbridge Wells. Yeah.
We came like it was only like the Kent Bowl or something, but we managed to win the bowl. Shout out to Jack Robertson with a clutch try last minute against, I'm pretty sure it was Dartfordians. In and out, round the outside, scored in the corner. Oh, we went mad. The fans went wild, and that was our first piece of silverware, like the one that we actually won. You always got loads for like going along to a festival, didn't you? Oh, here you go, well done for turning up. But we actually won that. Huge moment for us, Fog.
Oui.
And then we're juniors then, weren't we? Under 13s, if you remember that. We won the Kent Plate, Canterbury away down at Aylesford.
Was that 3-0?
Yeah, again, Jack Robertson, clutch, 3-0, kick straight in front of the post. The rain and wind was terrible that day, but we won that. And then I think the next year is when we had like all these influx of really good players. So you had like
overseas players.
Yeah, pretty much. Will Holcomb came back. Sam, literally overseas. Sam Jarrell, Harry Tripe, Tom Davey, obviously, average player, average bloke.
James Pete.
George Scott. Yeah, no, James Pete was later on.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, George Scott turned up. He came with Davey, Crunching Tom, the interceptor. So when they came, we went from being like an average kind of Kent Plate team to quite a tidy little outfit. I think our backs were massive. So obviously me and George was 9, I was 10, not big at all, but you had Jack Robertson, Charlie Fair, Angus, Sam Durrell, and Harry Tripe, and they were just absolute
big
wheels.
Blokes, yeah.
Then up front, the workhorses of Mertz, Gilgan, Hewitt, Foggy, Brophy, Joe Patterson, what a guy. Brian Suter, of course, who wasn't that good back then. He wasn't actually that good a player, and he'll admit this.
James Chatton.
50, Chatton, from like 15 onwards, those two boys, wow, they really grew. And then that's when we just started winning everything, really. Like under 14s, we won the Kent Cup, the Kent Sevens. 15s, we went unbeaten. I think it was like Cup, Kent Cup, Kent Sevens. Newbury 10s, which Foggy weren't playing in for some reason.
Who knows why?
Calf injury.
Yeah, another knee injury. And then I think the year after we won the 7s and the 10s, and we just won quite a lot of bits up into that. But we always kept, the tours were very good. We had a very tight-knit, like, little group, I'd say. Yeah. Still keep in contact with probably like 12 or 15 of them. And all the parents were proper tight as well.
Yeah,
so like my mum, dad.
The foundations were great though, weren't they? So like obviously the parents it was very natural. The parents got along. But people in our age, you couldn't think of anyone that wasn't really pally with anyone else or wouldn't like talk to anyone. There was no egos. So
it was well fun.
Done a fantastic job at managing men.
He was, yeah. So the old and let's a shout out to Paul Davis as well. Yeah. Great forwards coach. Got to get him in there. Yeah. Great guy.
Amazing bloke.
Some of those tours, I think we went on that big minis tour to Ireland, didn't we?
Yeah.
Juniors when we were under 13s. That was all right, but I think because we were the youngest, we couldn't really do a lot.
Yeah.
All I remember is like Elliot Shepherd and that lot getting told off for setting fireworks off on the 18th green. And then we were like, oh, we want to do that. But I think under 13s we went on tour to Antwerp. Do you remember that, Fog?
Yes.
That was unreal. Like that was under 14. Sorry, went to Centre Parks in Belgium, and it was unbelievable. It was so fun. Like the first tour, I think my dad made the executive decision that let's leave the mums at home because the boys have got to grow up. And we went there and just got drunk for like the first time as a group and stuff. Not that I'm condoning underage drinking, please. But boy, was it fun. I think on that same tour was when Tim Kelleher got cut in half by that girl when we were playing the match.
It was,
She
yeah.
absolutely killed him. Ian Buckler stole a sign again, as he always does.
Which is still up.
Yeah. There's two
above the members bar door, yeah.
Yeah, there's two of them. There's one from Ulster tour, Lusty Beg.
Yeah, Lusty Beg, yeah.
That's when the great James Pete was around as well.
Classic.
So yeah, minis all the way through to academy, which we didn't really have an academy. It was just our year still, 17s and 18s. And then played for I was looking actually, because you asked me before, and I think my first senior game was New Ash Green at home in March 2012. And I'm pretty sure the coach was Jacko, because I think you were playing in the centres, Speedy. It was you, I'm almost certain it was you and Kempy in the centres, and on the wing was like Adam Parham and Skippy.
I remember that game.
Mel Garland was at fullback, and I was on the bench, and I came on for like a 10-minute cameo at 9. That was.
Oh, can we just give a big shout out to Mel? I absolutely love Mel.
Oh, he's so funny.
God.
He was so good. Like he's like Sam Hodges. Nothing gets around him. He tackles everything.
Yeah.
He can't really run. He runs like he's in treacle, but he can defend.
Wasn't there a good story about him, like a team? Can you tell that story, please?
What one? There's one that I wanted to discuss later, but it's.
Oh no, I won't ruin it just in case.
No, it's perhaps under maybe it's not appropriate for this sort of podcast. But if anyone wants to hear the story, get in touch and I'll let you know. I'll leak it to the press.
Straight into the DMs.
So I think I only played a couple of games that season because there was like 2 left. I think we played at Dartfordians away the next week and got absolutely hosed. Maybe 50 or 60 nil. That was my first start.
I remember that game. That was that Jacko?
Yeah, I think it was his last game.
I feel like that was the game where Tim had told me that he'd spent the whole car journey convincing Doug to start me, or convincing Jacko to start me, and he was like, "Look, he offers you this, he offers you that," and what none of them knew is I'd literally got in like I've got in from like the night before, like 5 minutes before I got picked up by, I think it was Mike Housted playing at the time.
Wow.
And he apparently Tim managed to convince him to start me, and within 30 seconds we were like on the back foot, and a bloke has just like taken a short ball really near me, and I'm so like all over the place, just completely missed it, like scored within like 30 seconds, and Tim was just like,
thanks. What a man. Jacko takes convincing as well. Very, very stubborn Kiwi. Keep getting up. That was his mantra. Just fucking keep getting up, boys.
Keep getting up.
I remember under Jacko, so I think when I first started playing was under him, and there was like a time, literally 5 minutes before kickoff, where he just split the pack down the middle, 4-on-4.
Yeah,
and literally for 5 minutes just go hammer and tongue, like bang, bang, bang. And he would literally just be like watching like fantastic.
Yeah, and then he wondered why he was so knackered before kickoff.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. I think it was him, and then we had and then it was Tim and Doug the next season, I think.
Yeah, it was.
I remember like the first game I remember under those two was Shooters Hill away, and like 2 minutes before kickoff, Doug was like, "You're going to play fullback," and I'd never played there in my life, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And within like 2 minutes, their massive number 8 broke the line, ran square at me, and I just closed my eyes, made a tackle, and then that was when I started enjoying 15. So Doug Murray with a stroke of genius, tactical masterclass.
Expect nothing else.
Then I think that was it, and then I was in the first team for with you two. Well, I don't think you were playing at that time, Fog, much. It was
No, I
like me and Speedy. Under Tim and Doug was like us two, Bobby, Warsop, Obi, Pagey, Mike O'Hare, Dan
Andy Bottom,
Harding,
Mike O'Hare,
Andy
Al
Botton,
Woodward.
Joe Sheehan,
Yeah,
Gareth
Joe
Robertson,
Sheehan.
Grant. I remember this Irish bloke called Dermot, I think. He was like a hooker.
Do you remember Dermot?
Yeah, he was well funny. Humpty. But those two, I think you mentioned it in the first pod. What a job they did keeping us together, because
they were brilliant.
We were shy. Like, we lost a lot of games, but we were like HSBC, like Parkhouse, who was in the league above. We'd last few games of the season turn it around and always hang on in Kent 1. But we weren't really going anywhere. But those boys kept us together, because people like Bobby, I'm sure the reason he's still playing is because of the hugs that Doug used to give him after the game. Because every game that bloke was so good, and we'd always lose. And Doug was like, "Oh, do you want a beer, mate?" Looked after him well.
Because I'm pretty sure Bobby actually got asked to go and play for Guildford when the coach before Jacko, Matt Hawkes. I'm pretty sure Matt Hawkes tried to kind of poach him, because he was
100%. He listens to this pod. Remember when he claimed that the first score he ever watches when he finishes his game was like, "You're the first scoreline I go and check." Beccehamian. Yeah. No, you don't. Matt Hawkes, if you're listening, I could see you.
No.
Yeah, he was a neat. So, what a thumb. But we digress. Yeah, I think we played 3 seasons under Doug and Tim.
I was just trying to work that out, because I remember, especially towards the end, there were loads of loads of young blokes coming through there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the biggest issue with that era was it was like you had Grant and Humpty, Gareth and all of that, and they were all like 28, 29 plus, and then it was Speedy and Bobby, who were like 18 at the time, Callum 18, Brooksy 18, Mel 18, I was 17. There was nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
So when those boys were like started to have kids and get married and all of that, and when we were playing like with school, there was like no one. That's when the game I always remember is we went to Windenham away in the cup.
Oh my God.
The starting team was like, well, I think it was all right to start. It was like me 9, Warsop 10. It was Kempy and Speedy, Mel, Skippy. Skippy. Terrible. And Adam Parham. Yeah. And then by the end of the game, we had like 6 backs. Kempy was playing 10. Warsop went off. We had like Speedy and Bobby in the centres. And
I think last 5, I was fullback of that game.
Yeah, I think like Mike O'Hare ended up playing in the centres. And to anyone listening who doesn't know these blokes, they are not backs. They are out and out, tight forward, up the jumper rugby players. So.
Yeah, big blokes.
And then, so great, so fun under Tim and Doug. Great blokes, and they still watch to this day. And then all those older boys kind of quit or like went and had kids and that, and then we're in a bit of a like limbo almost, because I think Tim and Doug wanted to get out because it's hard work, right? Because they're like volunteers as well, so they were doing their day jobs.
I remember Tim as well used to get Totally Fair, like proper get the arse after Christmas, because we used to do that classic thing for those 3 seasons where from January the 1st till about February, till about the 10th of Feb, we'd get about 6 or 7 blokes to train in on a Tuesday and Thursday. And I remember half the time him just would we'd get no boots on until we had a certain number.
Yeah, mate, terrible.
So, tricky business, especially when you're giving up the time. So
they stuck at it as well. So yeah, I think, and I don't really know how Sia came into it, because we had we lost them lot, and then it was us lot. A few, there wasn't really that many youngers, like people younger than us, but people like Mike O'Hare stuck around for a bit, Mary and that, and then out of nowhere, Sia and Chengi joined. I'm not sure how, I'm not sure what they saw, but they obviously saw something, and then they obviously changed everything really. I think having 2 external coaches was massive. Yeah. Tim and Doug were such good, they're such good coaches, but I think where we know them, like where I've known both of them since I was a kid, like I obviously respect them, but if they say something, sometimes you might not listen to it or react as you would if Sia's screaming at me. I'm like, oh shit, because they don't really like when those two came in as well. It was like you're quite comfortable under Tim and Doug because you can get in the team every week and you're like, oh whatever, I'm sure I'll get picked. And then Sia and Chengi come along and you're like, oh shit, I'm actually gonna have to. So I think everyone got a bit of a kick up the arse and it was good for us.
Great.
I remember it was a bit weird at first, wasn't it? Because you're used to having quite a gentle pre-season, just a bit of touch, and then they were like, "Nah, we're not doing that." It changed the attitude, I think.
We were used to doing touch for a good 6 weeks before any form of official pre-season started. Anyway, so yeah, like you said, that was a huge shock.
We used to have we'd have 40 or 50 people to touch, and then it would come to pre-season starting, and it would drop down to 18, 20 if you're lucky.
And that was high. That was high compared to what it would be then for the rest of the season. So yeah.
So I think under Sia, where we have been the older group, we've kind of grown with him and such. And now I think when we first started, we were quite immature, quite inexperienced as a team. But now we've been around the block. Speedy, you're an old man these days. 27, aren't you? Nearly 28.
Nearly 28.
Blimey. Yeah.
Jesus. And I've been a senior. I've been a senior player in the squad for 5-6 years now.
Incredible. The only person who ever used to bring up the age in those early Sia days was Mary and Warsop. Warsop is he never ages, that man.
No, they messed up the average for everyone.
So even now though, so after Speed, who's the next oldest? So
Bob's the oldest, isn't he?
What's the difference between you and Bob, Speed?
1 year, I think.
1 year, yeah.
Well, Bob's 28, Speed's 27, and now Mary's retired, so he says.
Yeah.
It then goes Labar's 27, me, Foggy, Davey, 26, Tossell, 25, and then there's a little drop down to Fred and that. And then Miles, Dempsey. Dempsey's only 20 years old. Incredible.
That is scary.
Yeah, and then you've got the new boys coming through, the Carlos, the Sedgies, the Josh Carrolls, that Evan guy. You've got quite a lot of good academy coming through.
Young blood is important.
Well, that's the Beck's journey, fellas.
Loved it, mate.
We're just getting started.
And Pod's really, really important to mention as well that you did obviously go off to uni, but you carried coming back on the weekend to play for the club. We?
Yeah, certainly did. When I was at school, I didn't really play for the club that much. I didn't really play much seniors. I wasn't really old enough because I was 18, and when I was 17 in May, the season was already done. So I only played, and then the season after, when I was old enough, was when we were on our infamous Daily Mail Vars run, the second one. So yeah, the Ravenswood, you got a lot of time for that school.
Oh, we've got huge alumni here. Huge.
Wow.
Always
That was similar for us in the sense that we were always very average as a team. We were all right, year 7 to 9. And then year 10, I think we got to the cup quarter final, didn't we? We beat Whitgift 14-10 or something. Andy Cowland scored in the corner.
Oh yeah, there's that picture, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think it was less. I think the score was less.
It was 10-8, I think.
I think it was less. I think it was 7-5 or something like that.
Yeah, I know. It was. I think it was 7-5 because Andy Cowland went over in the corner and struck up and knocked that kick straight through, didn't I? Oh.
No biggie.
They're like Ian Paddington over here.
How old were you then in that pick?
What one?
The Whitgift one. Was that year 10, did you say?
Yeah, when we were in the cup, when we posed by the scoreboard. Yeah, we were under 15s.
Mad.
The Facebook comments on that photo are to this day timeless. I need to go through them.
I'm gonna dig that one out of the archives.
Louis Wilson, Unad Ali. So we did that. Then the year after we went to South Africa, didn't we?
Oh. Yeah. We've never mentioned South Africa on this pod, Fog.
And do you know what as well? I think for people that you know, like even like me and you, Speed, and so many of us, the reason why we have such a great bond, the people in our age group and the year above, was that tour. Like some of the people we've already mentioned, you know, Mike Halsteads and Brooksy's,
Mike Lamb.
Yeah, just fantastic people, to be fair.
Me and Brooksy got very close and personal on that tour.
Yeah.
When we the first night we stayed in, it was Stellenbosch.
Yeah.
In the little huts. It was me and him in a room. So there's like single bed, light, bedside table, single bed, and I like went to have a shower and like brush my teeth and that, and I came back and he'd pushed the two beds together, and to this day I'll never know why, but I was just kind of like, oh, you all right?
Never mentioned it.
No, it's so good. That was when he went off, him, Mike Halstead, I think you, Speedy, Colsey, and Fred Laws and Calamari went for a cigarette out the back.
Yeah.
And then Dumper came in my room like, where is he? Where's Alex? And I was like, he's gone to see David to get his asthma pump. And he bought it. And to this day, Brooksy's always been like, you saved me then.
But mate, so many good blokes. I mean, like you said, Ben Coles, Lou Tier, so many good blokes on that tour.
There was also something else that went down on the first night.
Oh, you're gonna stop it.
Between Roberto Batista and Paul Ashby.
Oh yeah.
Something quite personal was shared.
Oh, and it froze overnight.
Oh yeah, it was on the patio.
Yeah. Oh, funny.
I feel like.
If only we could discuss that in more detail.
No, I feel like.
Was there threats of him being sent home as well?
No, the best thing about it was, I think, because it was the first night, they were all like, right, we could really keep this under wraps. Like, we're not going to send him home, but as long as the school don't find out. And then I think, like, one of the most irrelevant blokes on the tour, was it like Ryan Trousdale or something like that?
Yeah.
Told someone at school. Beric found out.
Who's telling Beric? Like,
mate.
Chain of events.
Mate.
Didn't Ryan Trousdale get put in a bin that tour as well?
Yeah. I remember he got an orange thrown square at his face one night and he lost his shit. He was like, I'm leaving. And Spears was just like, where? Where are you going? Like, we're in the outback. Like, we're in the safari park. Where are you actually going? That was also the same tour when James Chatton broke a kettle and never admitted it, and for 6 years never just refused to admit that he broke that kettle.
Yeah.
100%. I'm putting this on record. He broke that kettle in your room. That's it. Done.
Yeah.
And he can't retort to this. There's no response. You won't be
Straight facts, baby.
Yeah.
Straight facts.
Won't be getting him as the guest, will you?
He's waiting for his caps first.
Oh, yeah, that tour was amazing, wasn't it? And then the year after was when we the year after you were with like Conor O'Hare and that in the academy, and Viox, Chris Laughlin or whatever.
Chris Laughlin.
Yeah. But then.
And was that when Labar joined as well?
Yeah.
It would have been. Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people see Labar at Bex and assume he's sort of been there forever.
Was it?
But,
yeah.
I mean, some value he's added.
Technical issues. Just a bit frozen.
No problem.
I'm back in the room. I think the year after was when we went to France, wasn't it?
Mm.
My first experience of David Labar was before the first training session, like just before near that lake. I was stretching his hip flexors and his groins. I've never seen anything move less than his hamstrings did. So I got very up close and personal with Labar very early, and our friendship has blossomed ever since.
Do you know what I think? And there were so many so many great blokes on that tour that just like you would just never think of anymore. Like you think of Pat and Adrian Briffa.
Yeah.
You think of Matt Carabash, like Chris Laughlin. I've not thought about that bloke in years. Toby Pedder.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, the academy though, again going back to what Paul said, like was just full of like some really random but really like great people as well. At the school academy.
And we loved France as well because it was always just a massive tear up.
Oh mate, that one, the battering. The one where we had the black and white night shirts and it was literally like it was like a battle on the field.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
Frost was supposed to be recording the whole thing.
See him run on.
Yeah.
Give a little 1-2. No, there's been some good times for sure.
Oh, amazing times. But Poz, you know, many people may not know about your time in New Zealand, and I guess this is a real tale within itself. So please elaborate and please explain just how you got the chance to you know ply your trade abroad.
The sabbatical, you call it.
Yeah, we will.
How it happened. That is, if you go all the way back, I think it was like 10 years, so it was like 2009 or something. You remember that Kiwi New Zealand rugby experience? So they do it every year, don't they?
Yeah.
But Dad got a call from this Kiwi bloke saying, "Oh, I do this rugby experience camp thing. Can I come and do it at your club?" And he was like, "Oh, absolutely." So that was Martin Stanley. He came along that August, I think, and obviously the coaches don't have anywhere to stay, so they homestay. So Marty stayed with me for that week, and we were under 15s. So I was also like playing or training with him that week. So I did the whole camp under him, and he lived with me. So I got quite close to him. Get very up close and personal. I even gave the bloke my bed. I gave him my whole bedroom, and I slept on the sofa downstairs.
Did you not think of doing a Brooksy and putting the two beds together?
I only had one bed, unfortunately. But he's a huge bloke, so he would have just filled it out anyway. So that happened, and I remember just like when I was playing or training under him, it was just all jouet. The man just wants to he was like teaching you how to fizz it out the back, like banana kicks and that. And it was just well fun. It was like different to any coaching we'd had before. And he just I was sure he just dropped it kind of without even thinking. He was like, "Oh, you know, when you're older, you should come and stay with me in New Zealand." I think he just dropped it and didn't think anything of it. But I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'll do that." So I kind of, for like a week, I was like, I'm going to do it. And then obviously I was only 15, so couldn't do anything. So I parked it and went off to uni. Uni of Sussex, great part of the world, great place.
Shout out Sussex.
Got myself a 2-1 degree in history. Martin Morrissey, that is all you, my friend. Thank you for your hard effort tutoring me. One of the greatest teachers I've ever had. But did that, and then when we finished, didn't really know what I was doing. A lot of people had grad jobs and that lined up, and I just hadn't really thought of it. None of us have. Shock Brophy hadn't either, so didn't really know what we were going to do.
Brophy was head fake with his head in a packet of fajitas.
8-pack. Wouldn't eat all day, then he's having a family pack of fajitas 3 times a week. What a bloke. But yeah, then I graduated and then didn't really know what I was doing, and then the Kiwi camp came around again, and I was just I just dropped it in the conversation to him on the first Monday. I was helping him coach, and I was like, "Oh, you know, any chance I can come and live in New Zealand?" And he was like, "Yeah, bro, sweet." I was like, "All right, cool." So that was like that conversation was dead. Then we didn't really speak about it. And then on the Thursday we go for a big curry, and everyone gets on the beers, and they do the hacker and all that, and it's all like, "Ooh, shout out to the Sonogoan, great place." And I hadn't spoken to him, and I was like, I really want to do it. So I just kind of grabbed him whilst he was 8 beers deep, and I was like, "Mate, I'm serious. I want to come to New Zealand for a year and just live with you." And he was like, "Yeah, sweet, I'll sort it out. All good." he obviously didn't. And the next morning he was like, oh yeah. So he talked it in detail. He was like, I don't live there anymore, but I'll sort you out. So I was a bit like, oh, thanks. I've now like committed to it, but so I couldn't really back out. He was like, you'll live with my my old next door neighbour, a guy called Matt Artinger. You may have heard of Ben Artinger, the All Black. Yes, that is Matt's brother.
Wow.
So they literally, the Stanleys, who are a massive rugby family. Joe Stanley, I'm pretty sure, was an All Black. He's Martin's brother. Lived in one, like, in Ponsonby. They lived in one house, and the next door house was the Artingers. So he was like, "Yeah, sweet. I live in the Gold Coast now, but do you want to go and live with my neighbours?" And I was like, "All right, let's do it." So typical Kiwis, they like that there and then he set up a 3-way Facebook chat and was like, "Sweet Matt, here's Paulie, here's his details, you two go ahead," and then just left the chat. So it was just me and this Matt Artinger, and it was like, I was like, "Hey Matt, can I can I live with you," sort of thing. And he was like, "Yeah bro, just tell me when you're going to land. It's like 200 a week or 200 a month or something for the outhouse. Rent's all good. We'll give you Wi-Fi, we'll feed you, etc. Walking distance to Ponsonby Rugby Club. Like anything else you need to know." And I was like, "There's quite a lot I need to know, but you know," I just was like, yeah, cool. And that was end of August, and then I bought my flights like the next day. Just complete YOLO. I was all right doing it. Booked it for the 12th of January or something, 2016. Messaged Matt like, "Hi Matt, here's my flight details. I'm landing at this day." And he was like, "Sweet." Like SWT, sweet. And that was it. I didn't speak to the bloke until Christmas, where I was like, "Hey bro, Merry Christmas," and that to your family and that. And he left me on red, so he read it and just didn't reply. So then I think like 3 days later, like the 28th of December, I am, to put it like bluntly, shitting myself because I'm meant to be flying out in 2 weeks, and this bloke said nothing. So I messaged him like, you know, "Can you give me a bit more detail? Are you actually going to be at the airport? What's going on?"
And pause, sorry to interject. We'd already like leaving do by this point as well, I swear.
Yeah, that was all planned. So I had that over the Christmas period. So that's why I like messaged him to be like, "Mate, this is actually happening." And then he replied the 3rd of January, being like, "Yeah, bro, sorry, I've been really busy. Christmas. I'll see you at 10 a.m. on 12th of January or something." And that was that. So they're like, Kiwis are relaxed anyway, but the Islanders, mate, it's a different world. And to him, I spoke to him when I got there, like when I left and stuff. He was like, "Yeah, I didn't see anything wrong with it. I thought I was quite good in my communication." And I'm having a breakdown, like, Jesus, what's going on? But then I landed, took the flight. I was very, very scared. Got there. The bloke, he didn't even answer his phone when I rang him at the airport. I messaged him like, "Bro, I'm here. Where are you?" And he again left me on red. And then like 5 minutes later, this massive hand just came onto my shoulder. He was like, "Paulie," and I was like, this bloke was enormous. I was like, "Yeah." Like, yeah, he was like, "Sweet, come with me." And he like walked off 10 meters in front of me, and I was like carrying 2 bags. This bloke was 6'6", like 150 kilos. And he just left me to like carry a massive suitcase, a rucksack, and a duffel bag. Like I put it in the car. We didn't really speak for like, we spoke a little bit, but he's just quite a quiet bloke. And then first 3 days, can you guess what I had for dinner? Like lunch and dinner for the first 3 days in New Zealand.
Lamb?
Well, no, I had KFC.
Oh,
3 days straight. So Matt's wife, Tracy Artinger, who happens to be the CEO of Kanaloa Rugby, don't you know? You know, the Pacific Island thing.
Oh.
She's the CEO, mate. She's, what a woman. She's listening. I'll send this link to her. Amazing woman. She was on like a work do. So Matt was left with his 4 kids, and he's like, "I ain't cooking." So they went to KFC 3 days in a row. And that's how I got there. And then it was, I'd say like the first 3 weeks, I was like, God, this is going to be chaos. Because I was living basically in a shed in the back. It's like an outhouse. It did have electricity, to be fair, and the Wi-Fi just about extended. But there was Matt there. They had 4 kids, a 16-year-old called Austin, 14-year-old called Levi, who's like a troublemaker, 11-year-old girl called Trinity, and an 8-year-old boy called Matt. And like living in someone else's family is obviously like house is kind of weird anyway, but when it's a Pacific Island family, oh my Lord, the arguments were something like, they're incredible. They're screaming at each other, they're like throwing each other around. I'm like an accessory to domestic violence. That was obviously between the kids. Then the parents never touched them. Let's just get that clear. So the first 3 weeks, I was like, oh, this is going to be a long year. But then it was all good. I got used to it. I beat them at FIFA a couple of times, schooled them at COD, played NBA on the PlayStation with them. I went to all their family events, and by the end of it, mate, I was like, they were like my second family. So that whole side of it was very, very, very good. I would highly recommend to any of the millions of listeners you have, some of the young folk, to give it a crack. But then out there, though, the rugby that's what you're really here for, mate. The rugby is different class.
I'm positive.
Yeah.
I was just saying, just explain the difference, because it's done differently over there, isn't it, in terms of who you play against?
I played for Ponsonby RFC, which if you Google that, they are like the V club in New Zealand. I think they've had 47 All Blacks.
Oh my
something
God.
crazy like that. They've won. So like in Auckland, they have their first team, or in New Zealand, the first team is called Prems. And in Auckland's probably one of the hardest places to win the cup. But the Auckland like Premiership League, whatever, is called the Gallagher Shield, and they've won it like 25 times in the last 30 years or something. They are crazy.
Jesus.
I mean, if I'd known that, I'd probably gone to a club where I might have got a game. But I went down there with like the intention of maybe playing for their Prems. I don't know why. I was never getting a look at him. But I went to training and that. First pre-season, and I famously got sidestepped by Rico Ioane in my first ever touch game. Absolutely embarrassed. Like Matt, the guy I was living with, Matt, was like, oh, you should go and join that group for like the warm-up touch. Like, he was laughing when he said it, but I thought nothing of it. I was like, all right. So I went and joined, and I just, you know, when you don't really know anyone, so you just stand on the wing and like wait for the ball. I like did that for like 5 minutes, and I caught it, and I like managed to like step this guy and caught him off balance a bit. I didn't run around him, obviously, he caught up with me, but all of the other team were like, "Where you just got done, and the guy who got stepped was like, oh yeah, all right. So then they like threw a big ball to him, and I was 1-on-1. I'm telling you, I had 1 meter of space to the touchline, which, if you believe Paul Hewitt, that's the best defender on the pitch. And I had like 1 meter that side. So I'm like, there's no way this bloke can score. I'm absolutely sweet here. And I like went to touch him. Like I looked to my right, and before I even made the touch movement, he had like jumped in the air, changed direction, gone left, and scored. And I was like baffled. I was just embarrassing. And a couple other times, that's like the only thing he did that whole game. Like, he got the ball a few times and like walked about, but you could tell he wasn't trying. He did 1 or 2 little runs and just bullied people. And I was like, I knew the standard was going to be good, but who is this guy? And then Matt was like, oh yeah, that's Rico Ioane. And I was like, oh. So
Was he an All Black by that point?
No, but he was in the training squad and that, and he was playing for the Blues. So like all the Blues, like I think the Blues had him, Akira Ioane, Patrick Tuipulotu, Gibson.
Beast.
All those boys played at Ponsonby. Then they get selected for Auckland, and then the Blues will like choose. Like, obviously, like that's their pathway. That made me that pretty early on realise there's no way I'm making it into this like first 15 at all. And then some bloke was watching training and he was like, "Oh, you should come and play for the under 85s." So they have one like sub category or whatever you want to call it, and everyone in the team is under 85 kilos.
Jesus.
And probably the most fun rugby I've ever played. Like, it was so fast-paced. It was like playing tens, but obviously 15 aside. But everyone's nippy, but they still hit hard. Like, they're proper rugby players. Mate, I was getting thrown around in that. That was so good though. Like, most fun rugby I've played. They just chuck it around for fun. They kick it. They play it like tens. Very good social. And I didn't get hurt either.
It is just, it is just so different
apart,
to England, isn't it? Like, we're so kind of pattern and shape driven from like a relatively early age as you get up to like professional in this country.
And plus
they
as well,
just fizz it. And the one, like, I reckon the reason, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I think we're on a lag.
Go ahead, Phil.
No, I was just going to say, so I know you said they were like obviously one of the biggest teams in Auckland, but how many sort of sides would they get out on the weekend out of interest?
They had Prem reserves, and then like maybe three others, plus 2 85 teams. So you're looking at six men's teams, 2 ladies teams, plus the under 21s, under 18s.
Wow.
Like, and that's not that crazy for a New Zealand team. Just everyone plays it, mate. The reason they're so good is touch. Like, we played in like a touch tournament, a family touch tournament. I think it's 8 aside, but it's proper touch rules. So like, where you touch someone, they have to take it from that spot, and it's a chicken scratch, and you have to get 5 meters back. Like, the first few times I played it, I got pinned off the park because I like carried it over the line, or like didn't take it as I was meant to. We didn't go back 5 meters. Like, they are so hot on it, and you've got like Sandra, who works in an office, will be playing, and she's got ball skills better than most of our team. Like, they read the game. The team I played in was ridiculous. I was so out of my depth. So like, Matt plays, he's an unbelievable coach, but the bloke is 165 kilos. He's not moving at all. He can fizz a ball. He can see what he wants to do, but he just tells you what to do. Then like Levi and Austin, the 2 young guys, they're running around. And then Tracy used to play international for Samoa. She played sevens for Samoa. Her brothers, Brenton and Jamie Halua, both played for the Blues. So like, all these, it's like an all-star team. And I was on the wing like, my ball, please. But it was well fun, mate. Like, it
sounds wicked, mate.
Learned a lot about rugby out there. And they're just well nice people. The social is still good though. So like, you think maybe there'll be such nauseas, they'll go home and start watching a video about rugby or whatever. The social is very good. That's very, very enjoyable out there. Highly recommend. Maybe not to you two. It might be that ship might have sailed now, but if anyone gets a chance, I'd do it.
There's definitely a few youngsters coming through, mate, who'd probably be all over that. And like you said, just even hear about something like that even existing for someone at a club like ours is obviously amazing. So
it's still like, anyone can do it, because Marty still comes down, and I talk to the guys I live with. I speak to them all the time. So like, as you know, I think I was speaking to you, Fog. You know that Kanaloa Rugby, so the Super Rugby kind of Pacific Island team.
Yeah.
So that's Tracy and Matt's. Like, they've built that over the last year, and obviously COVID and that might have its say. But they told me about that like 3 months before it became news and that. So very, very close to them still, and I'm sure they would be willing to accept newbies. So if anyone does want to, give your boy a shout, and I might be able to sort you out the goods.
Plug.
The good stuff, yeah.
Plug.
What
interesting offer.
Good man.
If I was a bit younger, or if I ever had any chance of being under 85 kilos again, I'd probably take you up on it.
Yeah. Think of your 1K time if you were sub 85 kilos.
Wow.
Doesn't bear thinking about.
No.
No, it does not.
No, it does not.
Gents, Shall we take a short break?
I was going to say, yeah, thanks so far, Paul. It's been some really, really good content. Yeah, I think we'll take a little short break, and we'll be back with you, ladies and gents, in 2 seconds.
Back in the room.
We back, baby. We back, baby.
Slightly different room. Let's just get that out of the way now. Had to change scenery due to connection issues, so I do apologise. But here we are.
We're
all about the connection.
Still one here between us.
Right, Fog, would you like to introduce the next section?
Yeah, so Poz is just going to talk us through some, well, as he's described it already, a 3-part thriller of one of his more memorable memories of this great club. Before we finish with some AOBs, okay? Senor Broadhurst, over to you.
So if I'm looking at the agenda, you've asked for the funniest rugby story, no names necessary, playing or drinking. So I've racked my brains and gone through like this treasure chest of rugby memories, and there are a lot of things that I would love to talk about that I probably can't because we'd have Ofcom sniffing all over this podcast.
Speed is busy enough as it is.
The legal team would be in serious trouble. So the likes of yourself, Foggy, Speedy, Davey, Tossell, Freddie, you can all collectively breathe a sigh of relief, as none of this will include you. The only name I want to mention is one that, Foggy, I know you'll have heard, but Speedy, you certainly won't have. It's a man named Johnny Dubois. The story is, it's almost like you could have a 3-part docu-series about it. But it's essentially about possibly the greatest 8-hour stint that the club has ever seen. It's probably the second best individual French performance of 2011, only after Thierry Dusautoir. That's the sort of level that this bloke is. I put him right up there. What was it? 27 tackles Dusautoir made in that World Cup final. Well, Johnny Dubois got something to say about that. Do you remember this bloke, Fog? Just before I.
Yeah, definitely. I can see his face in my mind.
Right? Actually, I was on his Facebook yesterday. You would never think. Let me show you. I'll see if for anyone watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see this.
How have I never
this
heard
bloke
this
is
guy?
the same age. This bloke is the same age as me and Foggy. I don't know if you can see that. He's 26 years old. I'm pretty sure he won't be listening to the pod. But if he is, bonjour, Johnny.
He looks like Barry from EastEnders.
Mate, this guy. And the backstory is in 2011, I think we were under 18s. Combray, I think you pronounce RFC, came on tour. Yeah. So they came to England and they played against our age group. The reason they came is their club chairman was Duncan Binney. So some people listening will have heard of him. Yeah, he's a great Beccehamian, been around forever. His dad was called Peter Binney, like 2 proper Beccehamians. But Duncan had lived in France for 10, 15 years or whatever. I think he was a teacher. So Duncan rang my old man and was like, I want to come on tour. Can you sort it out? And Bob, being the man he is, he sorted that out. So Combray RFC rock up. It was a Saturday. I think it was August or something. It was definitely summertime.
It was blistering hot, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was so hot. The pitch was dry as anything. We had been out the night before. I can't remember where, but it was that sort of era where loads of people were turning 18 and stuff. So loads of parties going on.
Yeah.
So we were looking forward to a nice game. And the pre-match coin toss is where I first came across the great Johnny Dubois. So in the coin toss, Duncan did it. He was the referee, obviously French and English speaking. Flips the coin, let Johnny do the honours, being the humble captain I was. He called heads, I think, and he won the coin toss. And I was like, well done, mate, good luck. And he gave me a handshake, was like, good luck. Held it, kind of pulled me in, was like, you're going to need it. And I was like, all right, steady on, Johnny. And I laughed it off because I knew, I looked at them and I was like, there's no way these boys are going to beat us. So I kind of, it was like, all right, good, yeah, good, whatever. Went back, and I think in our team huddle, my tune had changed from let's just have a laugh to go on, boys, let's turn it on today. And they had the kickoff. Ball's gone up in the air, floating about 30 metres above. It's going straight towards Josh Fogarty, and absolute shock, he dropped it. So dropped the first kickoff. But what you will have noticed if you're watching is Johnny Dubois, so their hooker, is absolutely steaming. He's about 10 metres offside. And if Foggy caught that, he was going to absolutely cut you in half.
So I think was what the listeners need to know is that I actually dropped that one on purpose. So, you know, just saving myself.
Yeah, I think you did.
Go ahead and all that.
But shock, Foggy. So, you know, Foggy dropping the kickoff, that isn't newsworthy. We've all been there. We've all seen it. But this bloke was really, really gunning for it. And I was just like, oh, fair enough. Maybe he's just proper keen. But then the next, like, ruck, the next scrum, this bloke is flying in, like, with elbows, like, to people's faces. He's kneeing people in the back. He's, like, stamping people, grabbing hair. He's ripping, like, scrum caps off.
Jesus.
He's like proper French, one of the biggest twats I've ever played against. Apologies for any of the young listeners, but the bloke was like, he's just a horrible bloke to play against. And it was every ruck. It was incessant. So I didn't like the guy at all. I thought the great John, it pains me to say it, but my initial thoughts were this guy is an absolute dickhead. We were winning like 52-0 or something. There was probably 75 minutes on the clock, and he's still just being an absolute nose.
He was relentless, wasn't he?
Mate, he didn't get subbed off. They all got subbed, but he was the captain, so he played the whole game at hooker. He was terrible as well. Like, he was an awful player. His line-out throwing was worse only than Tom Davies. Like, Davey is terrible. Johnny is just beneath him. So that's the sort of player we're talking about here. Well, like, yeah, 75 minutes in, he's 52-0 down. There's a scrum, and all game apparently he had been like stamping on people's toes in the scrum. He'd been like headbutting, like trying to punch people. And on our pitch at the time, we had Jack Gilgan, Ollie Diggins, Sam Jarrell, Mark Boyle. Like, I'm expecting one of these boys to like be the guy who just goes, you know what, I've had enough. If I was to say to you, Dave Speed, that the one person who saw the red mist first was Jack Murter, how would you react?
I would say you're lying. You're lying.
Yeah, the first, I've never, and Fogg's known Mertz longer than me, I've never ever seen him to this day lose his head. But for a brief 5 seconds, Mertz saw the red mist, and the haymaker he has delivered, mate, honestly, it is connected so purely with Johnny's nose. He is dropped like a sack of spuds, and the whole front row, like all of their forward pack, have seen it, and they've all just gone like, "Oh,
don't want it."
Like they absolutely do not want it.
They don't want it.
Johnny, like, Foggy's there, ready to like windmill them. Like, we're all up for it. They don't want it. A little push and a shove, but it breaks apart.
Just handbags, really.
Yeah, just a bit of handbags. But Johnny's on the floor. I don't think he's knocked out because he like stumbles and falls over. But his nose is flattened. Like, it is sideways at right angles, blood everywhere. The poor bloke's in trouble. So they took him to A&E, and we're just like, great, happy days. Get rid of that guy. We're going to enjoy our night. So we went up to the bar, had like all the beers, post-match stuff, speeches, boat races, etc. All having a really good time. And then this kind of like eerie silence fell upon the room. And in the hallway, kind of like moping through, was Johnny Dubois.
Very sheepishly.
Like, yeah, proper sheepishly. He looked like a schoolboy who had just been like screwed at by his teacher. You could tell he wasn't a schoolboy, obviously, by the hairline, the leather jacket, the flares. You knew this boy was at least 18. So he's like moping over, and there's this guy walking behind him who's kind of like pushing him, like urging him on. And he walks straight over to our table and like taps Mertz on the shoulder. And obviously our initial reaction is, fuck me, he's going for round 2. Like, he wants revenge. This guy smells blood. But he was like, Monsieur, I'm very, very sorry. You know, forgive me, can we have a drink? And his dad, the guy behind him, turns out it was his dad who had forced him to apologise to Mertz. And like Mertz being Mertz, lovely guy, just went, yeah, sweet, let's have a drink. So like it was literally like a click of a finger. Johnny Dubois turned from being the biggest like twat that we've ever played against to the loosest bloke I think the club has ever seen.
0 to 0.
Mate, it is an incredible turn of events. He literally sprinted to the bar, got a bottle of Pernod, bottle of Pernod, 2 glasses and a bottle of water, poured a massive glass for him and Mertz, chopped it, and like had this like mad smile on his face, like, oh, that was lovely. Then he goes up to me and does it, goes up to like 4 or 5 boys. And for the next 2 hours, he's going up to everyone in the club, pouring them Pernod. But what he's doing, he's not like pouring it for you, making you do it, go to someone else, make you do it. He's doing it himself at the same time.
With every single person.
Yeah, with every single one. So I reckon in 90 minutes, he's probably done a litre of Pernod. Bear in mind, he's pretty much been knocked out cold. And then we decide, I think it was like 6 o'clock, and they had to leave at 7 or something to go and like team bus or whatever. So we started playing Sink the Bismarck, par 100. And I think the bloke's loss rate was something like 40%. Like maybe every other game he was losing. Like it was, you know, in that game, you know, when par 100 decides it's you, he could not win it. So that will happen, and it's like I remember me and Fog are sitting there watching this bloke just in awe. He's, you know, when someone's like, he's just handling it, he's chucking it back, he looks like he's got it all together. Duncan stands up and is like, right, lads, we got to go. We're going out for dinner or something tonight. We're going uptown, whatever. Coach is here. We need to leave. So just like that, Johnny is like, shakes a hand, 1 more pastis for the road, and he's off. And we're kind of like, wow, it's like a whirlwind. It's like a tornado has just cut through the clubhouse and left. We're all like sitting there like, wow, what a bloke. He's actually quite a nice guy, isn't he?
He just became a cult figure within like 2 hours.
Like we added him on Facebook and that and everything, and it was just an incredible experience. And we were like, wow, we're never going to see him again. So we thought. So I then went for a piss about 20 minutes later. And you know when you get like to the stairs and you turn right and then you go down again. Mm-hmm. I got to that point and there was this incredible smell of like cigarette smoke. And Johnny had been like going through Marlboro Reds like there was no tomorrow. He went through about a 40 deck in 2 hours. But I didn't know he was still here. He's got on a bus, hasn't he? He's gone. So I'm thinking, oh, where's Max Lipko? Where's Mark Boyle? One of these boys is smoking in the clubhouse. But he obviously, whoever it is, hears me. And as I'm about to walk into the toilet, Johnny walks out. So I'm like, oh, hello. Like, weren't you meant to have left 20 minutes ago? And he was proper like, oh, yeah, left. And I'm like, how are you getting home? What's going on? Like, first of all, we can't smoke in here. So I'm like walking out with him and he's like, taxi, I've got to go, taxi. And I was like, all right, whatever. That's a bit weird, but I really need a piss. So I went back inside to the toilet to go for a piss. And the middle cubicle is like a crime scene. Like the amount of red chunder all over the place.
Oh.
It was on the ceilings, it was on the wall, it was on the hairdryer, it was in the urinal, it was in the sink. It was everywhere, mate. And now it made sense why Johnny decided like, oh shit, I've got to scramble. So I had my piss, and then I'm thinking like, fuck me, Angela is going to see this and I'm going to get the blame because no one's going to believe me that Johnny Dubois was the reason for this. Mm. And down walked, literally couldn't write it. Julie Adkins walks down. She's the bar manager at the time to like put something in the cellar. So she's like, what the fuck's happening there? Straight away, hold my hands up. I snitched on Johnny like nothing, just like that.
Okay. Had to.
Mate, if he was hosting a 7-man COVID party, I'd be phoning the police ASAP. Mate, I'd be dialing 111. So I grasped at him, was like, it was him, it wasn't me, whatever. Like, I can't get blamed for it. Julie was like, whatever, all good. We'll clean that up in the morning. Then that was it. I thought Johnny's gone, never hear from him again. Get a Facebook message from Duncan Binney the next morning. So it turns out Johnny somehow managed to get onto the 119. No idea how, because he's not got an Oyster card. He's just got this like flip phone. He's obviously not got a card or anything. He's managed to get on the 119. He got as far as Shirley, where apparently he threw up everywhere again. And then the driver was like, "You need to get off this bus." And he can't speak English. So he's like, "Huh?" So he's like he's quite an aggressive guy, as you've obviously heard. So he apparently was getting a bit argumentative with the driver. Then the police came, picked him up, put him in the car, managed to get hold of Duncan, drove him to the hotel. And apparently his dad was absolutely fuming. So he spent the whole next day. They went home on the Channel Tunnel. Shocked. Johnny was chundering in the corner.
Oh, mate.
And honestly, fella, that is the tale of Johnny Dubois. Zero to hero, cult figure. I hope he's listening.
I think Puffin Publishing might be pushing to bring that story to life, though.
You just, it can't be a worse film than Invictus. It can't be. So let's get it made.
Wow.
I believe this is the first time I've ever heard of Johnny Dubois.
Certainly won't be the last. What a bloke.
Would you say who has more of a cult following at Beck's? Johnny Dubois or Jonathan Wheel?
Wow. I'm so glad that man's name was mentioned. I'd say, if I was to write an analysis, I'd say the impact Johnny Dubois has had in his 8-hour tenure at the club is bigger than anything we've ever seen. And I'll stand by that.
Sounds fair.
Wedge is absolutely listening to this podcast. He's dishing out the numbers. He's dialing in. So Jonathan Will.
I really wish Wedge was.
Mate, I hope that man's well. He has been calling the pandemic week for week in terms of what's going on. He is actually a genius. So
self-professed enigma.
Yeah, the self-professed economic expert. It's great. If he's out there, welcome Wedge. I hope these boys get in touch soon.
Oh, our people will be speaking to Jonathan's people very soon.
Yeah, the next guest, if it's not Johnny Dubois or Jonathan Wheel, then I'm...
Imagine we got...
Spotify Premium.
JDB.
Mate, Paul, thanks. Such a great story. A very kind of... It's very emblematic of the kind of relationship I think everyone has with the club, you know. It's highs and lows. It's, you know, seeing the difference in people's characters, and it's like hating someone one second and loving them the next, and it's like, you know, how rugby brings all that together. So, you know, at the risk of sounding too cliche, you know, we're a bit pressed for time at the minute, but, you know, if you had 30 seconds to sum up, you know, what Beck's means to you, what the club means to you.
Wow. That is quite the question, David. Beccehamians, it is essentially my life, isn't it? It's my extended family. I absolutely love it. It is an honour to be the unofficial first 15 captain. AGM pending. Hopefully no one rejects my application, whatever it is. But yeah, mate, absolutely love it. Got my best friends here, friends for life, you guys, so many others, people young and old that I'm very, very fond of. You got 8 from like the under 7s, all those boys who I've coached, little Kingsley, all the way up to you boys. And let's take some time to remember the greats, not that they've passed, hopefully. Baz, Ken Ellis, John Buckle, that quartet of blokes, trio actually. It's just what a place where you can go in. You can go in on your own, and you can go and sit with those blokes and just talk about Australia back in the 80s with Baz, how they used to be good at rugby. Go over to you boys, go over to the academy boys, the ladies, the bar staff. I could be here all night, fellas. What a club.
Yeah.
Long may it rain over us.
Mate, so well put. So well put. Exactly the kind of answer I was expecting. And, you know, for any young listeners out there, you know, you've got a current first team captain explaining in 60 seconds why the club means so much. So, you know, this is what everyone's got. got in store for them, and this is what the same views that everyone at this club shares. So what a great example of how blooming fantastic this club is.
Great work, was.
Thanks. It's been a real pleasure. It's been an honour to be here. I'm not sure if this is the end of our journey, but
this is not the end. We've just got a couple of bits of AOBs, and then we'll do some thank yous. So first bit of AOB is club will be open again on Saturday. So please give the man Paul Thurkettle a shout if you're attending. It is BYOC, not BYOB, BYOC. Bring your own chair.
Yes, please.
Oh, love it. Love it. To be fair, you can sit on the floor as we did on Saturday. That was pretty cool.
Wear a mask as well.
Of course, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Sticking in tables of 6, yada, yada, yada. The second piece is, quite a sad one. And both Speedy and I, and I'm sure Poz would like to pay our respects to Sergeant Matt Ratana, whose life was tragically taken from him this week. So, R.I.P. Matthew.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Definitely. We've got a high police presence at Beccehamians, don't we? So I know that one has affected a lot of people this week. So definitely, we're offering our condolences.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
However, back to you, Mr. Broadhurst. Thank you. You've been a fantastic guest. Thank you so much. Have you enjoyed your time?
Oh, I mean, if we ignore this 17-minute spell to try and get on board, it's been a through memory lane, fellas. Just thank you very much for having me. I think in the words of the great Winston, 80 years ago this year, actually, thank you for what you two have done, but, never has so much been owed by so many to so few. This podcast is a welcome ray of sunshine in this COVID-stricken world. And I am just here for it. I will be tuning in weekly. So,
thank you for your kind words, sir.
Thanks. You very
I'll
much.
see you at training on Wednesday.
Oh, hell yeah!
What a pleasure.
So, that is episode 9 of the
until week 10.
Yeah,
that's what I say.
See you, lads. Have a good night.
Ta-ta.